Michael Schumacher gets his 7th Formula One World Championship on a truly, truly eventful day.
It's a glittering 7 stars on his cap now as the magnificent world champion leads the Ferrari homecoming. But beware Juan Pablo Montoya. He's posted the fastest lap in F1 history. Average speed close to 163 miles an hour. Pole sitter Rubens Barrichello, for once, wants to step out of his teammate's shadow.
That's a tremendous lap there by Rubens Barrichello, looking for his 2nd pole position of the season. And he's done it! He's split the 2 Ferraris! Juan Montoya is on the front row at Monza.
What a big change, though, to those conditions for qualifying. We have had hours of heavy rain on race day. It has just stopped for the last European race of F1 2004, the Italian Grand Prix. Hello there, good afternoon to you all from Monza, the fastest track on the calendar, the citadel of speed set in the Royal Park of Monza just outside Milan in northern Italy. Those tifosi, the fanatical Ferrari fans, are coming here to celebrate. But Tony, they've had a right old drenching this morning and this place is positively evil in the wet.
It's treacherous. And you've got all the cars have been in parc fermé. They're on dry setups, so with little rear wings. You run with very little downforce here. But I was speaking to Alan Permain just a little while ago, Trulli's engineer. Because of climatic regulations, they'll be allowed to change onto wets if they want to, or they want to risk intermediates. They can have some work on the brake ducts. They can change the front wing, but not the rear wing. Even so, here in damp conditions, the last damp one in 81, John Watson had a big crash Curva Grande. The car broke in 2. It's a dangerous place.
Right, particularly under the trees. It just never seems to get dry there, does it?
Doesn't drain away. It's very, very bad for drainage, and you could have some standing water out there as well.
Right, let's just look back at qualifying in the dry. First of all, the Ferraris. Barrichello on pole by a massive margin, over half a second. How did he do that?
Well, first of all, tremendous setup on the car. He might be a little bit light on fuel, almost the perfect lap, and that delighted Ferrari. But what they really wanted was an all-Ferrari front row here on their homecoming after cleaning up in both the championships. But there, coming through the Parabolica, Michael Schumacher made a little mistake and he ended up only 3rd. Now, he's a little bit upset by that, but still, I'm sure they've got a great strategy and they'll go to battle and try and get a 1-2 if they can.
Fernando Alonso in the Renault that always starts so quickly says he is surprised to be on the 2nd row. Do you share that surprise?
I'm not surprised because they've got great engine speed here from the Renault. It's very, very good under acceleration. It's very good on its rear tyres, which take huge pressure here. And they've done a lot of work on the car in the 3 days of testing last week. And what's more, little Fernando said we're going for an aggressive strategy. And you know, when he says that, he means we're going for it.
Sure, that's been handling particularly well in the corners. Juan Pablo Montoya created a Formula One record here, the quickest single lap of all time. That was in pre-qualifying, we must point out. Average speed, 163 miles an hour.
Just phenomenal. We're talking about an absolute rocket here, but the FIA are saying we have to arrest the progress. Talking about doing over 230 miles per hour right there, and there's Frank enjoying that moment. But the cars are getting too fast for the circuit. In qualifying, he went out and did it again. He did a 19.5 in pre-qual. He did just over 20 to get on the front row of the grid and get a 2nd position. But this is why you've got to slow the cars down, because the circuits can't keep up.
Montoya won the first race of his career in 2001. I remember a magnificent battle he had with Michael Schumacher early in the race through those crucial early corners last year.
It was tremendous, and we've seen it sometimes this year as well. They did it at Imola, where they came together and went down to Tosa. And this is a great thing about Juan Pablo Montoya. We have this in prospect today, even though Michael's starting from 3rd place. Look at that. He only just got through after 3 bends, banging wheels together. That's what we want to see.
It's a really tight grid, isn't it, Tony? Before we hear from the drivers, just talk us through it, could you?
Barrichello's 11th career pole puts him ahead of Montoya's fastest ever record-breaking Williams. Schumacher 3rd after a mistake. Alonso 4th. 5th, Sato out-qualifies Button in one of the closest grids. Just 7/10 of a second separates the top 8 of Raikkonen and Pitsonia. 9th, Trulli, he's gone conservative. 10th, Coulthard's McLaren. 11th, Zonta. 12th, Webber in the Jag, who said too many straights for us. 13th, Panis in his last Italian Grand Prix. And 14th, Klein. 15th, Fisichella said he was too conservative. 16th, his Sauber teammate Massa. 17th, Pantano ran wide at Ascari. 18th, Bruni's Minardi. 19th, Paul Baumgartner, a chicane penalty and chassis write-off. And last, Heidfeld after 2 engine changes.
If I get the chance to get to to the first and the second corner first, I might have a chance to open up a gap. If not, then it's going to be the strategy, because overtaking here with 3 or 4 kilometers difference in terms of top speed won't be enough to overtake. So let's spray the whole night.
I think we got a very good pace, but I think everybody's got a very good pace. I think the race is going to be quite close, and it could be one strategy. You know, I think Ferrari could be a little bit more consistent than us, but you know, we'll see.
Montoya's ahead of you on the grid, split the 2 Ferraris. How much of a challenge do you expect him to be during the race?
He's going to be strong. No, I don't underestimate their performance. Though on starts we looked very good, particularly against them. So I hope we're going to be leaving the first 2 corners 1-2.
It's very difficult here in Monza to get the maximum, because you run over the curves a lot, and it's difficult with this level of downforce. But yeah, I think it was a clear lap with no mistakes.
I had a little bit slide in Ascari's chicane, so it cost us a little bit. But even so, I think 50 is a good position.
4 races to go then for Sato and the rest. If Barrichello wins this afternoon and Button fails to score, the Brazilian is runner-up. Ferrari have that perfect season. Trulli's stalled as he prepares for a likely new career at Toyota. Alonso's in shape to overtake his Renault teammate. Montoya's heading for McLaren. He'll want to maintain that gap to Raikkonen and Coulthard. Sato and Fisichella level on 18. Meantime, in the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari have won 6 in a row now. BAR still very much in the hunt with Renault for best of the rest. It's very close between Williams and McLaren as well. Sauber looking good for 6. Jaguar, Toyota and Jordan all dicing for the places above Minardi. Well, now your chance to experience one of the rides of the season. It's in the dry as well. Martin Brundle's on board with today's pole sitter, Rubens Barrichello, the only man to have finished every race this season. It's flat out, pedal to the metal for over 70% of the lap, top speed just shy of 225 miles an hour, and mind those body-jarring curves.
3.6 miles ahead of us then for Rubens Barrichello's 11th pole position in Formula 1, 227 miles now, looking for your braking point into the first chicane. Just snatches the front wheel, he's on the ragged edge of retardation, clean over the curbs, straighten the car up, brilliant traction, heading into the Curva Grande, about 150 miles an hour already, 180 on the exit, 210 before he gets down to the second chicane in the shadow of the canopy of the trees. Heavy braking then, down to about 70 miles an hour, neatly balancing the car over the curbs. The 2 Lesmos ahead, 100 miles an hour through the first one. It's all about smoothness and balance and use from pole position.
That track will be a very different proposition today. The Monza podium is absolutely great, by the way. Stretches out over the crowd, and Rubens Barrichello's been on it for the last 3 years. Well, this weekend we are meeting the McLaren team here on ITV F1. We really do mean meeting the team as well. David Coulthard's your host.
Good morning. Every weekend you see the public face of the team, which are the drivers, but very rarely do you get to see behind the scenes. So we're going to take a look in the McLaren Communication Centre at some of the people that make the race team tick.
Well, as we walk inside the impressive atrium of the Communication Centre, we start off with the tyre support crew, and there you have Steve Cook, or his nickname of Tats, as you can see from his arms. Looking very proud at the front there. We move on to the data acquisition guys. They're all the boffins, so big heads and small bodies. Race engineers standing up there above everyone else, you know, ready to be shot down if they make any mistakes in strategy. Mercedes Ilmore on the right-hand side, we have Tim White, my race engineer. And on to the most important part of the team, we have Absolute Taste. They make sure that the whole team is well fed and watered. Marketing, which obviously take care of all the sponsors and partners of the team. And then on to those who make the communication centre work and build us all together. And Becky Biffin at the end there was celebrating her last race for the team.
So, you've met all of the team here in Monza, but don't let's forget that part of the iceberg which sits below the surface, all the people back in Woking who underpin the performance of McLaren.
Aside from support for the cars, McLaren makes sure its drivers are looked after too. Mark Arnell is Kimi Raikkonen's personal trainer and knows the driver dubbed the Iceman better than most.
Of course, there's lots of different work to do, not only the driving but the PR work, and of course it's not the nicest thing to do before the race. So I just do what I think is the right thing to do, and I just try to drive the car as fast as I can.
He's passionate about it, although he probably wouldn't admit that so much. But it's also a very relaxed attitude. He doesn't get stressed about it. Because he enjoys it so much. It's what his life has been about for so long.
I don't need anyone to telling me what I should do or what I shouldn't do, and they don't need to try to push me to drive as quick as I can.
You can almost see it sort of looking into his eyes that what he's concentrating on is the driving, the circuit, and it's very difficult for other things to penetrate that, which I think is a massive asset.
I'm a greedy man. Greedy man. I'm a greedy man.
All of us are different, so I feel maybe very excited inside, but maybe I don't want to jump around there and do what I think is right for me.
Kimi wants to be the best he can be. He wants to win races, he wants to win the championship, and that is his goal and that is his focus. And I'm sure one day when he wins the championship, you might see him smile more on the podium.
But of course it hurts on that moment, but I don't think it too much, because what can you do? You cannot change it anymore, so it's just wasting your energy.
Initially, he'll show his frustration, but within 15 minutes to half an hour, he's normally quite relaxed about it.
I got ants in my pants and I need to dance. Come on.
It's nice to do. Of course, some days you don't feel like you want to do, and then I don't do it, and it's easiest then.
When we're training together in terms out on a bike or running or whatever else, it gets a little bit more competitive, and he wants to win, as he does with everything. On a bike ride, I'm normally watching his little butt disappear into the distance, and maybe running, things like that. It's a different story.
I don't often think about Formula 1 when I go and do my other things, because I have enough Formula 1 in my life anyhow. It's same, I think, so in every other work. You cannot just work, you need to have your own time also, so it's important.
He wants to have a life of his own as well as have a life in Formula 1, and in some respects that's quite difficult to have, because you've got the racing, you've got the testing, you've got the promotions. When you include the training as well that's got to be done, there's not a lot of time left after that to really just have a normal life, and he's quite determined to hang on to that.
I'm happy what I'm doing, and I make my own decisions. So I'm not going to try to be like someone else. So hopefully I take the right choices and everything goes well.
Both the McLaren drivers have a private area here in the communication centre where they can relax during the race weekend. David's kindly invited us into his room for a look around. It's kind of compact, isn't it? But you've got all the toys a boy could want.
Yeah, there's obviously not a lot of space, but you've got to try and create the areas for both the drivers. We have a little wet room in between as well, so we can shower after the sessions. I have monitors, videos. I can actually look at onboard stuff and watch what's going on the track, everything from here, and listen to your voice as well if I'm out at the race.
What kind of videos do you watch?
Well, they tend to be racing videos, so here we have Magny Cours 2004.
It's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm here to do a job, so I'm not really here to hang out. So it's just an area that's quiet and private and allows us to focus on the race.
I noticed you've got a little mirror in here as well. Is that so you can check your hair before you do TV interviews?
Very important. Yeah, I'm going to make sure I'm looking good.
Yeah, always looks immaculate, does DC. He starts 10th on the grid, still dry. Just about half an hour to go to the start of the Italian Grand Prix. The winner here back in 1988 in a Ferrari was Gerhard Berger, one of quite a few familiar faces around the paddock. Here's Gerhard Berger chatting to Ted.
Gerhard, what is it like driving around here in the wet?
Well, it's quite difficult because you still have to run quite very low downforce. On the straights you have small rivers, so you have a lot of aquaplaning. It's challenging.
Dangerous.
Dangerous, yeah. I didn't want to say dangerous, but it's challenging.
So what can they do? What can Williams do to try and stay safe and finish the race?
It's not a lot you can do. The driver can do a bit to stay on the surface. But well, I think it's okay because it's not really raining, so it's damp and it's wet a bit, but you don't have bottles. So I think it's gonna be okay. And if the sun comes a bit out, maybe it gets into the conditions where people start to think already to put a dry tyre on, and then it's fine.
Thanks, Gerhard.
Well, here's another familiar face, Gerhard's former Ferrari teammate, Jean Alesi. Jean, obviously all the Tifosi's attention has been on Michael Schumacher of late. What do you reckon to his achievement? 7 World Championships.
You know, we're big friends, and I always tell him it's it's even more difficult to speak about him because he's just winning and having the World Championship every year. So I don't know what to say about that. You know, it's amazing what's happening.
How do you rate his chances today? Starting third, is these conditions going to suit him?
Very much, and especially because of the tyres he's using. I think he's in the best position to win.
Thanks, Jean. Lovely to see you.
Two great characters there, Tony. John Alesi would have loved these conditions, wouldn't he?
Well, he had pole position here before now, and he would have revelled in them. The thing about Jean, he's still winning in the German Touring Car Championship, and Gerhard had that wonderful 1-2 here. He led home the Ferrari just after Enzo Ferrari had died, so that was very significant. Of course, the fans went absolutely wild, and they loved Gerhard.
Let's come back to the present. The unluckiest man in Formula One at the moment has to be the Hungarian Zsolt Baumgartner, who drives for Minardi. They've been using him for target practice in Spa and here.
I mean, what are the chances of that happening twice in a couple of weeks? This happened to him at Spa, 200 miles per hour. Jenson Button blows a tyre, goes into Zsolt. If he hadn't gone into Zsolt, he'd have got into the barriers. Zsolt was just coming out on a slow lap, and Pantano came down the straight, locked up at 230 miles per hour, shoots across the infield. Shades of Sato and Heidfeld in Austria a couple of years ago, and bashes into him. Rights off the chassis, but it's the speed differential. It's that first bend which is so dangerous going into the chicane. Everyone's going to have to watch out at the start as they funnel through there.
Minardi haven't got money to spare, have they?
They haven't, Jim. And the other thing is they've got to send all the freight, all the cars this Thursday off to China. It's a race against time for Paul Stoddart and the Minardi team.
Let's have a word, shall we, with Zsolt Baumgartner himself.
Well, Zsolt, what's it like? You're just going along quite happily, and then you get hit by someone. What does that feel like?
Yeah, that feels very bad and quite surprising, and it was very close to a serious injury, and I'm very happy that no one of us has a serious injury. That was a big shunt with a big speed difference. My chassis was broken as well, so it was really a hard accident. It was much more serious than the last week one in Spa with Jenson.
Well, let's hope for some better luck today. How do you think you're going to go in these damp conditions?
For us, it doesn't look too bad in damp conditions. We were quick in wet situation in Spa, quicker than usual, and I hope we can be quicker here as well. So I hope to stay in front of some of the cars who run Michelin.
Thanks, Zsolt.
Yes, Zsolt Baumgartner starting down the back of the grid. Plenty of support for Minardi, Italy's second team. Well, here in Monza, it's been announced that Olivier Panis's racing career is coming to a close. The 38-year-old Frenchman will no longer be driving that Toyota. He starts 13th this afternoon. Been a really good servant to many teams, but he's calling it a day at the end of the season. Here's Olivier Panis and Louise Goodman.
It must have been quite a difficult decision to come to.
Well, it was, really it was, but the end of the day I need to take a decision. Maybe I said, well, maybe I continue one more here, maybe I stop now. After Monaco I started thinking, talking with the family, talking with the management, and in Monaco I decided, look, now I think I retired because I did a lot of work. The Formula One schedule was very, very busy. I did my best for everybody I drive. And I enjoy really my time. And I say 11 here in Formula 1, 160 Grand Prix at the end of this year. I say, okay, now is the time because I want also to profit about everything I miss a little bit. But I'm very happy to take the decision. And after that, all the top management to come back with some different idea, particularly Mike. And I say, why not? I mean, for sure, I don't want to racing anymore. But if you have a little bit lighter schedule, and to continue to help the team, I'm really happy to do it. And we find the agreement to be reserve drivers because he know me, he know my speed and the motivation I have. if he need me. But the priority is to be test driver to help the team to continue to grow up.
He'll be a good ambassador at Toyota. Good guy, Olivier Panis. His career included a spell as test driver here at McLaren as well. Well, last season, you might remember, we waited all season for the new McLaren that never arrived. This time around, though, since the new 19B was unveiled at the French Grand Prix in early July, McLaren have been a bit more like their old selves.
McLaren have caught up 2 seconds a lap on Ferrari from their poor pace at the start of the year. The new car, the 19B, claimed fastest lap in Spa and is now a race-winning chassis.
The 19B was the car that I in particular wanted right from the start. It was just a matter of getting it produced and getting it out there. But basically it's the car we wanted, and it's something to build from, I should say, for next year.
For sure, the team has done a very good job when we bring the 19B out. It has been a big improvements in the speed and also reliability. But even it's not 100% there yet, but this is good, and we're going definitely the right direction.
A win from 7th on the grid might be tough this afternoon, but the lap times suggest the McLaren is fuelled heavier than its rivals.
We don't know what the other teams are doing, how much fuel they're carrying, and we only know what we did. So I think so the lap was good. So I had maybe went a little bit too quick in the last corner. So hopefully we are in a good position.
But now F1 is entering a period of big rule change. Adrian Newey's famous for taking advantage of the new regulations, and the 05 chassis is already built. Will it also be a winner?
One has to rely on, if you like, intuition and informed guesswork. And one of the tests for next year will be who manages to do that best. From that point of view, it's more of a different car than it would have been had we not had the regulation changes, but it will still bear a family resemblance to the 19B.
And going for the title next year in that McLaren is Juan Pablo Montoya. The Colombian's already made a big impression.
He's a very personable chap. Obviously he has a reputation for a Latin side to him, but I'm sure in the cockpit he shows great discipline, and I think he'll bring a bit of colour to the team.
Well, I tell you what, a colour for the team for Juan Montoya and everyone in this pit lane. Fantastic scenes. They've only just gone out, all the cars, because it's a big gamble on which tyre to go out on. The two McLarens, Martin, have gone out on intermediate tyres. Are they going to start the race on those tyres?
We don't have to decide until the 5-minute board, and obviously weather like this we like to think of as an opportunity, but clearly it's a challenge. The drivers will have a look at the circuit. They won't talk on the radios, but they'll talk to their engineers when they get there. We'll be constantly monitoring the conditions, and 5 minutes before we have to choose the tyres. We'd dearly love to start on dry tyres, but at the moment I think the predictions are we'll be starting on intermediates. Of course, for us, perhaps we've got a bit more fuel than some on board. That's not what we'd want to hear, and if we can get away with dry tyres, we will do so. It's an opportunity to be heroes or to look extremely foolish, and that's what we're faced in the next 10 minutes, really.
Thanks very much, Martin.
Heroes or zeros. By the way, Ron Dennis, the McLaren team boss, he'll be joining us during the Italian Grand Prix from the pit wall. We've got a competition coming up for you shortly as well. As always, we appreciate your views here on ITV F1. A reminder, you can contact the team by email to paddock@itv-f1.com, by text on 86188. Tony's there on Ask the Team this week, and be sure to keep in touch via our website. That is itv.com/F1. Here's David Coulthard to answer one of your questions.
So we've had an email question from Kevin Chapman from Ealing, who wants to know what you're allowed to change on the car between wet and dry conditions. Well, it's quite easy. You're not allowed to change anything apart from brake duct cooling. If it's wet, you're allowed to put some tape on there to allow the brake temperatures to run at their operating temperature. Other than that, you cannot adjust anything on the car, which is, in my opinion, a little bit dangerous, because if you have a full wet race after a dry qualifying, then obviously the car is running very light and downforce.
Some very important decisions to be made in the next 20 minutes or so. Well, our competition this weekend is for £1,500 worth of clothing from Eden Park, the official ITV F1 supplier. And we want you to tell us who won the 2003 Italian Grand Prix. Was it A, Michael Schumacher, B, Fernando Alonso, or C, Jacques Villeneuve? A, Michael Schumacher, B, Alonso, C, Villeneuve. The number to dial 0901 293 2020, 0901 293 2020. You can answer by texting F1A, B or C on 85123. The Eden Park competition closed at midnight on Friday. That is September the 17th. Would you believe it? The sun has just come out. You're looking at our pole sitter, Rubens Barrichello. Monza, Formula One's oldest and fastest track, gearing up for the Italian Grand Prix, the last act of the European season. We will be grid walking with Martin when you rejoin us.
It's the biggest prize in the game, and this season's lineup is stronger than ever. Can the Invincibles conquer Europe at last?
It's Chelsea's night!
Will the Mourinho magic work at Chelsea? How will Rooney perform on the big stage for Sir Alex?
Fantastic Liverpool goal!
Can the new Liverpool bring back the glory of old?
Sutton!
And how will Celtic match up against the big boys? Tuesday is Champions League night on ITV with 2 live matches and a full highlight service every match week. Enjoy the best club football in the world.
It's Chelsea at Paris Saint-Germain on ITV2 from 7 on Tuesday evening. Meantime, here on ITV1, join Gabby Logan at 7:30 for Arsenal against PSV Eindhoven, live from Highbury. We go live to the grid to Martin Brundle. Martin, all sorts of questions for you to try and answer, pal.
Yeah, the show still very much goes on down here. They've just started playing there at the front, but the most interesting thing for me at this end of the grid so far is, what is this safety car going to do? Will they possibly start this race under the safety car? I can't imagine they'll need to, and they certainly shouldn't, in my view. But that'll disappear 5 minutes before the start of the race if they're not going to use it for that effect. Now, I'm going to be about as welcome as a toothache on this grid today, because they've all come very, very late. They've been waiting to go as long as they could, as Ted pointed out earlier on, to try and find out just where the track is at. The sun is coming out. It's drying very quickly. The problem here is the Lesmos and a couple of the big braking areas are under the trees and will dry more slowly. So will they start the race on slicks? There's not a lot they can do in terms of the setup of the car. They can climatic conditions have been announced as changing. So as David Coulthard said in his email answer, they can change the brake ducts, they can change the radiator ducting. I don't think they will anyway, because it's going to be warmer later on. And they can change the angle of this front wing. Crucially, they can't change the rear wing, the flap of the rear wing. Let's go around there and have a look at that, and just so you can understand what we're talking about. It's really skinny in chord and very little angle of attack. They can change this if they want to early on in the race, but it wouldn't be worth stopping for that. So the drivers have just got to get out there and drive it. But which tyres are they going to be on? Let's see if we can find somebody who can give us a clue for that, because they're all rushing around. They've got 10 or 15 minutes less than they normally would have. Sam, can you just give us a quick, what are your drivers saying about the track?
It looks like it'll probably go dry pretty quickly, because it's quite wet for the first 2 corners, but the rest of the track from turn 3 through to the last corner is pretty almost inter, if not dry already. And with the sun coming up now, because the cloud's gone away, it's going to go dry very quickly.
So you think 100% of them are going to start on slick tyre, on the dry tyre, I should say?
I don't know. It's at the moment definitely turn 1 through to 2 that's still wet, so it's definitely inter through there. So it's going to be a tough call.
Are you satisfied with your wing level, or do you wish you got a little bit more on now?
No, wing level will be fine, because if it's dry after 3 or 4 laps, then it'll be full dry downforce anyway.
Okay, good luck. We'll get out of your way. Rubens Barrichello, I know, is off the grid. We got Michael. And did I hear Rubens is walking back? Right, let's go and Rubens, I don't think he is behind me. Here's Rubens Barrichello. What's he doing here? Rubens, that's not your Ferrari. Your Ferrari's over there.
I was checking if
you think they might be pulling a bit of a stroke. How's the track looking? I know you're in a hurry, but thanks for talking to us.
The track is actually drying out quite quickly, but as you know, Lesmos is going to be quite wet still. So it's going to be a bit of a gamble. Hopefully when we come to our pit, it's going to be already dry.
Now, it's always a casino going into the first corner here in perfect conditions. Today it's going to be treacherous, yeah?
it's very difficult to know where to brake. So hopefully people at the back will understand a little bit of that. Otherwise, it's going to be a casino like always.
Yeah, okay, good luck. You've got a good shot. I mean, your intermediate should be awesome, yeah?
Yeah, it should be very good for the time being. So whenever you change a little bit to the dry, Michelin could have an advantage to start with, but hopefully we're going to be spot on whenever we change them.
All right, good luck today. Your rear gunner's Michael for a change, so let's see what we can do about keeping him there. Right, can you believe all these people on the grid? I thought it'd be really quiet today, but as soon as the rain stopped, all of the profilers and megastars and would-be heroes have come out to play. Let's see if we can find out anything here. If Alonso, the drivers, because... right, let's have a word with Swervin Irvine over here. Irvine, we need some words, pearls of wisdom from you. What would you do today, Stan? Slicks or wets?
I haven't even looked, so don't ask me something like that. All I've been doing is, looking around, seeing that everyone's nice and happy.
Seeing that everyone's nice and happy. When did you ever care about that?
I do now.
Oh, is the softer side of you?
It's a new caring Eddie Irvine.
Okay, so Irvine loves the people, doesn't care about the tyres. It's going to be a very interesting race.
Indeed, it will be the new caring Eddie Irvine. Let's have a final thought from Tony Jardine.
Well, I mean, it's going to be very, very mixed, but I think the key thing there that Rubens was talking about was the Michelin Intermediate, which is feared by the Bridgestone runners, and that could be crucial in those early laps.
The track is drying quickly then. Those early corners, still very slippery indeed, are going to be absolutely crucial. Michael Schumacher with the Italian flag on his helmet as he tries to become the first driver to win this famous race 5 times. Ahead of him, Rubens Barrichello, the only man to finish every race this year, going for a rare victory. Montoya absolutely loves Monza, scene of his first F1 triumph and the fastest lap in F1 history. Alonso's Renault that we're seeing will fly down that 200-mile-an-hour straight to the bottleneck first corner. The BAR's Sato and Button and Raikkonen's McLaren all very much in the mix. The sun is out. Ferrari are intent on a party in the Royal Park. We are access all areas for the Italian Grand Prix.